So around 6 years ago, exactly, so 6 years ago, January 2020, I was probably at my lowest point mentally ever. Was 18 at the time, and things were so bad, I just couldn't see a way out of them. So I described what I was going through at the time as I'd call it like the stress pyramid. There were like three areas that my life seemed to revolve around, three sets of problems that I just didn't think I'd be able to get out of. So, on the one hand, I was in my final year of school, about to take my final exams, my A-level exams, in around 4 months' time, and I was completely flunking school. Not that, not that I was a dumb kid, I just lost all motivation. Motivation can be kind of flimsy, it is, but I just kind of, at this point in my life, I just couldn't muster up the willpower to even focus on school. Like, I was so apathetic. I just didn't care about life or the future or anything. I just didn't see how I was going to pass those exams. So I kind of just, I gave up. And that speaks to how I was feeling mentally at the time. Like, other people could hear this and think, oh, like he's just lazy or irresponsible. But the truth is, I was just so depressed, I just didn't care. And I literally turned up drunk to an exam once. Like, that's how bad it was. Genuinely just didn't give a fuck about like my life prospects or anything. So that was the first point of the pyramid. Second one was this weekend job in this department store selling TVs. Should never have been working there in the first place, but I kind of failed the first round of interviews when I went for the job in the summer before. Yet they called me up like after I had like already failed the interview and offered me the job. And that should have been like the telltale warning sign at the time. Like, why are they hiring someone who isn't what they're looking for the job? And pretty much that was just because it was such a toxic working environment. These like mid-level managers just fucking screaming and shouting at the staff, undermining you in front of the customers, not to mention just like a really stressful job. Like, you'd be looking for something for one customer and then you'd have like about 10 other customers just mobbing you on the way up to the stock room, and people getting pissed off at you, entitled customer base. Not to mention I was working Saturday and Sunday. So no break. Don't know what I was thinking. School 5 days a week and then 2 days at the weekend. Like, no surprise I was falling behind with my schoolwork. And then the third thing, which at the time I didn't really see as a problem, it was my group of friends. So I've talked about before how I had a very hard time with friends in school, spent most of my time throughout school with like this very, very toxic friend group who I never really felt valued me, was constantly just bottom of the social hierarchy. They'd use me for their own entertainment, take the piss out of me at every opportunity. And it just like nuked my self-confidence. But the depressing thing was I didn't think I could do better than that group. I was just kind of with whoever would take me. And that all changed in this final year. I made some new friends over the summer. And it was kind of the opposite with them. Like, I felt like they valued me so much that I never wanted to lose them. Like, I was in this such a mindset of scarcity. I wanted to hold on to them for dear life. And a big source of stress for me was the thought of losing them when we all went into university. Kind of hence why I was in this spiral about like just not really caring about the future or anything that happened after school. Without being like, without kind of taking this video to a dark place, there were times I considered just like not living past the summer. And yeah, just throughout this whole period, this friend group, they've been taking me along to parties. I suddenly had like this really exciting social group, and where kind of things just came quite full circle, like a deep, deep, deep source of pain for me, despite having these new group of friends, was when we'd be going to these events and stuff. Socially, it felt like I was just so far behind them, like years and years behind them. My social skills and just my confidence level. It felt so far behind them, and it was just painfully obvious for me to see. It was kind of the shallow things that you care about when you're that age, and I do still somewhat care about. But I'd see them like talking to girls and be able to walk into a room full of people they didn't know and like feel okay with that, and not be like really self-conscious, and not have to like turn to alcohol to just like even feel comfortable in that kind of situation. And yeah, it was just like, I kind of done my best to ignore this for years and years. Like I kind of just hoped the problem would go away, like the fact that didn't even have like an ounce of self-confidence in school. But suddenly it was all just kind of like thrust in front of me. There was no hiding from it. And yeah, this kind of exciting social life that I had. Still have like I still have good friends from this group, but there were like a few guys in kind of my circle that things kind of turned sour. The relationships kind of became we were all kind of in a similar state of mind for different reasons. And yeah, it kind of just became like, it felt like with one person in particular, and I'm not going to say it's like his fault or mine, but it's like we just kind of weren't good for each other in that way. Like we'd be saying, oh, we're brothers, like we love each other, we're like absolute like best friends until we die. But then we'd just be like falling out constantly, making each other like more upset, kind of like just, I don't know. Don't really know how to explain it, but just we were not kind of good together. All of these different things contributed to this like mental state that I was in. But out of all, like the deepest pain of all was just how far behind I felt in terms of my social life. I just had the worst anxiety, even just going into school, going along with my friends to these social events. Wouldn't even be able to like look girls in the eye. Couldn't hold a conversation without like stuttering. It was so bad. And being where I'm at now, someone who I would consider myself very confident, I never take that for granted. Never take for granted how far I've come, and just kind of, even though I still get anxious, just waking up and not feeling so burdened with that, and kind of just like looking in the mirror and fucking hating myself. But something I've realized since then was, in terms of becoming a more confident individual, yes, I was putting myself out there, was doing the things that people say you should do in order to build up your confidence. Just keep putting yourself in those situations and you'll be all right. You'll develop that natural confidence and ability to talk to people. And yes, it was normal for me to not have like a really great social skills coming from that situation I was in and having such low self-worth. But the reason I couldn't do it sooner, and I figured this out in a very interesting way, was because my foundations, my social skills foundations, which in my opinion are just it's kind of your inner state, how you're feeling on the inside, which affects like how you look at the world, and that includes how you see social situations and what you believe other people think of you. The foundation was all wrong. And I first learnt about this because of what happened after. So a little bit less than 6 years ago. We went into lockdown for the first time. And I recognise that was a very bad time for a lot of people, but I'm not going to lie, the first month of lockdown was probably the best month of my entire life. And I look back on this period so fondly. Because imagine, I'd gone from being in such a bad place mentally, terrible stress and anxiety, feeling like I had no way out. Shit, like not even planning to like live that long. And suddenly by divine intervention, every single one of those like points on this like pyramid of stress eliminated. Didn't have to work this shitty job anymore. Got my weekends back. Didn't have to see toxic friends anymore because we're all shut inside. Probably most importantly, the thing that saved my life, fucking exams got cancelled, man. Thank the Lord, man. Like, I would have failed every single one of these exams. Felt even worse about myself. The cycle would have just continued. Who knows where I'd be now, if I'd even be around. And this period of like just not really having anything else to focus on, I had to put my energy somewhere. Even if I'd have just done nothing, I would have become so much more like mentally healthy. Not just mentally healthy, but physically healthy as well. But I started working out. Started just doing push-ups in my room. I had these like little weights. I just like spam the bicep curls. Started eating better, going on more runs, meditating. For some reason, this just created this like momentum. And I just wanted to like embrace all of these like different self-improvement habits. Stop watching porn, stop fapping. And going outside just a lot more, going on my hours exercise, just taking walks in the woods. All of that stress just gone. And funnily enough, this turned out to be the perfect foundation for what would come after. To create this like confident person that I am now, who like I do consider myself pretty socially fearless. And when things started opening back up again, it's like I committed to just change, to just be someone different. Like physically I was a different person. I had these like the tiniest little bit of muscle on my biceps, and like fuck, I was just so happy when I saw that in the mirror for the first time. I looked different physically after just kind of hating how I looked for the longest time. And it's like with that, I recognize like the mental change. It's like I'm not the same guy I was in school. I'm not anxious. I don't get walked all over. So why don't I start approaching my social life with that as well? Why don't I form an entirely new social circle over this summer? So gradually it was like this foundation, this momentum that I created, which all started at like creating like better physical, mental and spiritual health for myself. That propelled me forward. And suddenly it was like I'd go down to the pub with like one friend, and somehow I'd just be able to like, what am I talking about? Somehow, because I felt so different, because I felt so rejuvenated, I was like, what can I do that's daring? You know, who can I talk to? How can I kind of expand my social circle? And I just like was in such a positive frame of mind that I just wanted to spread that with everyone. And I'd look for these like little ways in, and I'd be in like the smoking area, and I'd just give someone like a compliment on their trainers. Or I'd say, I love your outfit tonight, man. What's your name? It sounds quite simple, but just I'd been so cut off, and I'd never be the one to initiate a conversation in my life. To suddenly just kind of looking at this as like a game, like how many people can I talk to tonight? How can I keep this momentum going? And I just became like so ridiculously open. And I'd honestly say I'm not even this open anymore. I've become like, if that's like level 1,000 open and just so friendly and positive. I've probably gone down a few levels since then. I kind of like glamorize this at this time of my life because that's how easy it felt to just talk to people. And I was just showing myself what was possible and people were reciprocating. I'd always thought there was something wrong with me, like I'm boring or my ability to, have interesting conversations just isn't there. People aren't interested in me. And man, I just suddenly realized just how easy things could be. And I was kind of just building up over this summer. And there'll be times when I was young and I cared about like going out and shit like that. I don't really care about that now. But I'd be going out with like a different person who I'd met the night before, like multiple nights a week. I was just so willing to challenge myself. Like I'd never leave a conversation without getting someone's like Instagram. I'd be like, yo, let's hang. Let's hang out tomorrow. What are you doing this summer? Let's go skateboarding. And man, just one of the best times of my life. And it really showed me what was possible. And the overall message I'm trying to get across to you, none of that would have been possible in this negative frame of mind, this chronically stressed, depressed, sleep deprived, never exercised teenager that I was. It's kind of like, the analogy I would use is like you're trying to grow some crops, you're trying to grow vegetables in your allotment. You could water the soil, you could, make sure the plant's getting enough sunlight, you could do everything right. But if the soil itself, the foundation, is no good, it will never grow as big as it could be. You'll never get like a good yield of vegetables or whatever. They're never going to be as good as they could have been. But if you make sure that soil is of the highest quality, if you're getting good sleep, you're exercising, you're dieting, eliminating those toxic people from your life, getting rid of these chronic stress factors. If there's a job that's absolutely killing you, not working that job anymore, like just cutting your losses, you're better off not doing it if it's just going to tank your health. If you get rid of all those things, even just the absence of those things, even if you were just to do nothing, you'd be better off. But if you replace those things with positive habits, going to bed early, eating whole foods, making sure you're getting your exercise, even on the shittest day of my life, I've had some hard days like in the last year. Those things have been my outlet. They've been not even been my escape. They're just like, things aren't so bad. I know things will improve. Whereas before I was just kind of numb and accepting of like, my life's going to shit, which is just all wrong. The secret to having a great social life that no one talks about, my number one hack, is getting that healthy foundation right. Thank you very much.